I'd like to talk about wisdom. I hope wisely. We'll see. It's very important to understand that intellectuality is not the same as wisdom. Intelligence is not the same as wisdom. Being articulate is not the same as wisdom. Wisdom is understanding what is lastingly real, what causes suffering, and what brings happiness. And that's basically the whole question. When Yogananda came from India to the United States, to the Western world, basically at that time, in 1920, he published, as soon as he came to America, a little book he called The Science of Religion. As it happens, he didn't actually write the book himself. He gave the ideas to a disciple who was more versed in English, and that disciple wrote the book. It was ghostwritten under Yogananda's name. So Swami Kriyananda felt the freedom to ghostwrite it a second time, and he called it God is for Everyone. But the premise of that book is really simple, and it's pretty much what I just said. Everyone wishes to escape suffering and find happiness. And all the extraordinary complexity of everything that everybody does is just experimenting with that single impulse to see what the results are going to be. In the 1960s, when my generation was dismantling the moral standards of the country I lived in and creating a different story, the sexual revolution played a big part in that. And when we were by the 70s, and most of us who had been part of that had found our way to ashram and realized that the ashram was really what we were looking for. That was what would relieve suffering and cause happiness, but we were still quite wedded to many of our lifestyles. And basically people asked Swami, what do you think of all of this? And he represents a very orthodox tradition and spent most of his life as a monk. But his answer was, he said, oh, I'm all for it. And then he often would do that. He would give you the answer that you really wanted and let you have it for a little bit of time before he expanded on it to tell you that you weren't quite getting what you wanted. Most famously for me personally was when I was in a very complex situation, finally extricated myself. And he said, well, maybe the karma's over. Maybe you're finished, yeah. And I got to just be really happy on that for about 10 seconds. And then he said, but I don't think so. So in this one, he sort of told us what we wanted to hear. And then he said, because you're making experience the criteria of your understanding of life. And he said, experience is the only way we ever come to understand anything, provided you are honest about your experience, and not just using our experience to support our biases, which is what many, many people do. I had someone in South Africa make emphatic, confident statements about politics in the U.S. and about what everybody in the U.S. thought. I'm standing here looking at it thinking, I'm from the U.S., It's like, why aren't you asking me instead of telling me? But he had a strong conviction based on, I didn't have the energy to ask him. Later I wished I had, because I would have been curious. He had this strong conviction based on who knows what, which made him a greater authority than the person who was actually living through the experience. But this is what we do a lot. It's not wisdom, it's prejudice, it's bias. Yogananda said quite simply, reason follows feeling. You ask the question, I use Nazis as a good example, how could so many brilliant people become persuaded that the Jews were really the problem? And that if we just killed all the Jews, then all our problems would be gone. I mean, just on the face of it, how could you become convinced of such a thing? But if there's something in your heart that wants there to be an answer, just think about it. And so, what wisdom is above all, it requires calmness first, because we have to just really stand back and ask, why do I think that? I did have the marvelous experience for more than 40 years of being frequently in Swami Kriyananda's company. He was a brilliant leader and a true friend, and followed all the advice that he gave to us. He exemplified it. So he was always very, the only word I can say is ridiculously respectful, sometimes, of my point of view. But when I was foolish, which I was a great deal of the time, there would just be this certain feeling in the room. And so I had the opportunity to constantly have to stop and say, why do I think that's true? I watched attitudes being formed once when I was at an athletic club, and there was a hot tub there, and it was just open, and so some of us were sitting in it, and this woman and her daughter, and the daughter was about 9, they came and sat down. The woman, to be delicate about it, I do not believe she lived an examined life. I believe she just was following whatever she'd ever heard. So she sits in the hot tub, and to make conversation, she said, I prefer the dry heat of a sauna, like that. And her daughter looks at her mother, and the daughter says, I prefer the dry heat of a sauna, like that. And I just suddenly had this picture going years ahead. She's a teenager. The kids want to go sit in the neighbor's hot tub. She says, I prefer the dry heat of a sauna, like this. She gets married. Her husband wants to put in a hot tub. No, I want a sauna. You never do what I say. When did it form? What did she even know? And it was ludicrous, and I was just projecting. But I could see the woman and the daughter cut from the same cloth. So be very, very, very careful when you start asserting anything. Especially when you're asserting it with an emotional commitment to it. And there's some part of it that you want or need or hope it's going to come out a certain way. Just ask yourself, just simply, why do I believe this? And I'm not saying that we can't come to conviction. I had great faith in Yogananda. I had great faith in Swami Kriyananda. I did not always understand what Kriyananda was saying to me or what Yogananda had written. But I knew that I could trust them, that they were telling me the truth. And so if my thought disagreed with theirs, I had too much integrity to just accept it, but I had too much integrity to reject it either. So I would just put it over here and just wait to see what might be true. And of course, over years, as I've grown and had experience of my own, I just keep taking all those ideas off the shelf. And I think, well, they fit perfectly, because now my experience is closer to the experience that was offered to me. So the fundamental wisdom is we're all trying to escape suffering, we're all trying to find happiness. And everybody, no matter how insanely misguided their actions may appear to you, somewhere deep inside of them, it seems like a good idea to them. But we should learn. We should always be standing on the edge of trying to understand, is this really going to bring the result that they want? I have reincarnation as part of my story, so I don't have to worry so much when people do evil things. It'll straighten itself out. It's not up to me. Their own experience will teach them. But it's also very important, and I represent a lineage, and I don't speak for myself. I have become profoundly persuaded from my own experience of the wisdom of what I'm sharing with you. But I learned it from those who were wiser than me. And if you are fortunate to find yourself with the opportunity to have truly wise, impersonally wise people in your life anywhere, listen to them. Listen to them. Do not sacrifice your integrity to them, but be open to learning. This is how we become wise. And if you can find a teaching that resonates with your heart, then learn it. I mean, make it really study. All the academics that we learn, these days information is just rife, and too much is not better. But when you find a thread that makes sense to you, that rings in your own heart, follow it and learn it and get the concepts so clear in your mind. When I was caught in a very difficult situation that involved a hospital and doctors, I was not the patient, but people that I loved were the patient. And it was a mess, and it just wasn't fixing itself. And as sometimes happens in my life in that particular dynamic, I had to hold it together. So I'm in the hospital and I'm doing pretty good. But I finally had to leave and go where I'm sure, I think the walls of the parking garages have seen a lot of tears. I'm in the parking garage, I'm away from all the people who are depending on me, and I'm just sobbing my poor heart out because it was all so awful. In the middle of all of those tears, and I always say it like this, I didn't hear an external voice, but I almost did. I felt like a voice came in that ear, traversed my brain, and then exited my left ear. And as it was traversing, it said, "Do you think this could be happening outside the will of God?" It just went right through me like that. Instantly, I had to stop crying. Now, that would never have happened if I hadn't spent so many years prior to that trying to understand what is God, what is the will of God, how do we know, what is karma, why do things happen, does everything happen for the best, are we really here to learn? You can ask 1,000 questions. And if I hadn't every day, in every situation, asked, how does this teaching apply? What is happening here? How can I learn? What does this book say? Explain this to me. Tell me what you meant by that. Just on and on and on. But in that moment, the only thing I could say was, of course it's happening by the will of God. There was no calmness. There was no joy. There was love for the people who were suffering. But in that moment, having committed myself to the pursuit of wisdom, it saved me. And so, but then I said, okay, Lord, if this is your will, you need to help these people because, and then I was very frank, you have to be honest. I said, because I'm at the end of my rope. And if I go down, I fear this whole situation is really going to go down. And then I came up with the prayer that I've used ever since. Divine Mother, whatever you're trying to teach them, help them to learn it. And then often I add, and quickly, faster than the flow I'm seeing. Or pray that they have the wisdom, the receptivity, the humility, the devotion to learn what you're trying to teach them. Now you see how that all comes together? Like that? And you see how extraordinarily helpful that is. So sometimes all you can do is just find the underlying philosophical truth that you have practiced, explored, meditated on, understood, because nothing else is going to save you at this point except how could this be happening outside of the will of God? You see, like that? All karma is fair. If it's not the happy ending, it's not the ending. Divine Mother loves us and will only give us the experiences we need to make us free. And if there was another way for us to become free, she would use that method. But you can't just paste those on if you haven't practiced when it was easier. Okay?
In the autobiography of the yogi, Yogananda has a chapter on I become a Swami, a monk of the Swami order. And he talks about a chant that he chanted at that time. And it's written by the founder of the Swami order, Swami Shankaracharya. And Yogananda translated that original Sanskrit chant in English, so that's what we're going to sing. No birth, no death. Oh, I do need words. Sometimes we just chant the first couple of verses, but in the autobiography there's more words, and so we eventually added another couple of verses, and Swami mentioned them in one of his books, so we asked him, is it okay to chant those too? And he said, sure. No birth, no death, no caste have I. No birth, no death, no caste have I. Father, mother, have I none. Father, mother, have I none. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. Mind nor intellect, nor ego feeling. Mind nor intellect, nor ego feeling. Sky nor earth, nor metals am I. Sky nor earth, nor metals am I. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. Beyond all fancy, formless am I. Beyond all fancy, formless am I. Free from dreams of all earthly life. Free from dreams of all earthly life. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. Bondage I fear not, I'm free in thy joy. Bondage I fear not, I'm free in thy joy. Free, oh free, Lord, free in thy bliss. Free, oh free, Lord, free in thy bliss. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. No birth, no death, no caste have I. No birth, no death, no caste have I. Father, mother, have I none. Father, mother, have I none. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. Mind nor intellect, nor ego feeling. Mind nor intellect, nor ego feeling. Sky nor earth, nor metals am I. Sky nor earth, nor metals am I. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. Beyond all fancy, formless am I. Beyond all fancy, formless am I. Free from dreams of all earthly life. Free from dreams of all earthly life. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. Bondage I fear not, I'm free in thy joy. Bondage I fear not, I'm free in thy joy. Free, oh free, Lord, free in thy bliss. Free, oh free, Lord, free in thy bliss. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he.
Walk like a man, even though you walk alone. Why court approval once the road is known? Let come who will, but if they all turn home, the goal still awaits you. Go on alone. Follow your dream, though it lead to worlds unknown. Life's but a shadow once our dreams have flown. What if men cry, your dream is not our own? Your soul knows the answer. Go on alone. Give life your heart. Bless everything that's grown. Fear not the loving. All this world's your own. Make rich the soil, but once the seed is sown, seek freedom, don't linger. Go on alone. Walk like a man, even though you walk alone. Why court approval once the road is known? Let come who will, but if they all turn home, the goal still awaits you. Go on alone. Go on alone. Go on alone.